Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the 4/4 of 2025, the April 4th message from Mother Mary. As most of you know by now, my name's Samara, and I've been channeling Mother Mary for a long time, going on 27 years. And it's always a little bit of a surprise to me. I keep asking her to give me a preview of what she's going to talk about, and I get a feeling. But the truth is, she really waits till you all come on. And it's like she's sort of scanning the souls that are here, and she wants to make the message as direct and as appropriate and as inspiring for you as possible. So thank you so much for joining, whether you're on the call tonight or you listen to it later on. It's my joy and my honor to be able to do this and to offer some heavenly advice and inspiration to help us make it through this turn on the earth where, things are a little complicated right now. So in just a moment, I'll bring Mother Mary in. If you enjoy the message, please like and share. You can find me on both YouTube and Facebook. And if you don't like it, I wish you well. It's all good to me. So here we go. Well, I want to say welcome. I want to say thank you. And I want to say bravo for showing up, because a lot of people right now are sort of, circling the wagons and pulling the covers over their head and saying, oh my God, the sky is falling. And the truth is, there is a lot of change and challenge in the world right now. But I will tell you this, it had to happen. It's a global, well, it's sort of like an eruption. When you think about what's happening, with earthquakes and volcanoes and all this erupting, and of course, it's been happening for thousands of years. But has humanity really erupted in this way? There's been pockets of this and pockets of that and dissension and all of that, but it hasn't really erupted on a global scale. When the pandemic occurred, it really demonstrated the fact that you can't segregate the air. You can't say, well, it's happening in China, so it won't affect me, or it's happening over here, so it won't affect me. It was literally an airborne energy that caused everyone to say, what in the world's going on? And in that process, it brought up a lot of confusion. It brought up people who certainly wanted to trust science and do this. It brought up people who said, oh, you must do this, you must wear this mask and do this and this and that. And then it also brought up all these other people that said, no, I don't want to, and I don't care to, and I don't believe what you're saying. So what is that? It's really a chance to see and recognize that you all don't agree. You don't agree. And also to see that there isn't one person or one country that has the perfect answer. It doesn't exist. So the eruption is really a time of reckoning throughout the planet to say, how do you want to live? How do you want to live? Who do you want in charge? Do you want a planet in which we're basically not caring about the toxification of the earth and the air and the water? Well, in some areas, the decision was made, we don't care if we're polluting because we need the money. We need the factory. We need to produce this. And so again, I'm not saying that those people are wrong, but what you want to do, all of you are such beautiful spiritual beings. What you want to do is pull back from the momentary confusion and take a look at this earthly birth that's happening, realizing there's never been a time up until now where every single decision by every single person in every single country has an effect on everyone else. And so, as much as you like or dislike the current president in the US and these tariffs that are going on, can you see how it, in a way, is demonstrating the friction between all of these countries, and also between not only money, but the goods and services, and what's fair and what's just, and who's the boss, and all of these decisions. And so it's really a time of reckoning. What kind of government do you want? Who do you want to elect? Do you trust who you are electing? Are they doing what you elected them to do or not do? And in this process, there is a very huge responsibility that comes back to each person. And the responsibility is, how are you living? How are you living? Never mind for a moment all the governments and the countries and the dissension that's out there. How are you living? Because as you know, as within, so without. What you are doing or not doing, what you are choosing or not choosing, becomes, in a way, a microcosm of what you will then see out there. And so, of course, all of you that are listening are already on this beautiful spiritual path. You're people that do yoga and meditate and care for nature. And I'm sure some of you are horrified by people who don't do that. But what I want you to see is that as you continue to do and care for yourself and the earth, and when I say care for yourself, I'm talking about loving yourself by giving yourself whatever is right for you to have as a soul and as a human being. And then to have, in a way, a sovereign essence that is filled and full of beauty and of courage and of integrity. And now what starts to happen is that which is then yours to share, to do, whether that's to teach a yoga class or go on a wonderful retreat or write a book or love your children and grandchildren. You know, it becomes your path, but it comes out of a fullness. So it's no longer the type of thing where it's been very transactional, very codependent, very built around typically economic concerns rather than human concerns. And so the first job is right here with yourself, to love yourself, give yourself what is fulfilling and healthy and happy and joyous, etc., etc. And then from that, sort of listening to your soul and saying, what kind of help can I offer? What kind of gift can I bring into the world that would bring perhaps more joy, more peace, more happiness to others? And then you think, well, wait a minute, Mother Mary, you just talked about the governments and this and that. How is that going to work? Well, it's going to take a little while, but it's going to come out of a system in which people learn, as I honor me, so I honor thee. And so rather than having all this dissension about who needs to do what and, you know, all of that comes, strangely enough, from what you could call the sympathetic nervous system. But it's not very sympathetic. The sympathetic nervous system is what is built around fight, flight, freeze. And so it is a lower frequency inside of you. It's very helpful if you're being chased. It's very helpful, you know, if there's something that you must respond to in that moment. But when you are in that frequency, all you can think about is your own being and your survival. And so therefore, the decisions that come when you're living so deeply in that sympathetic nervous system come from that place of fear, basically. How can I provide for myself and my family? What will I do if this happens or that happens? Now, all of you have that system. And as I said, it can be very, very helpful. But you also have a parasympathetic nervous system. And that's the one that we all need to have a little more time with. And the parasympathetic nervous system is the one that gives you rest, gives you peace, lets you sleep at night, lets you digest your food without heartburn. And so how do you learn to sort of activate the parasympathetic when it's, the news is telling you this and this and that, and this is happening and all that? The short and simple answer is meditation, prayer, energy work of whatever kind you like to do, being out where there's beauty in nature, doing a gratitude list, all the things you that are listening to the call pretty much already know. But when you realize that you've been triggered by something, you have to just take a moment and realize, all right, do I want to respond, from some sort of frenetic place? Or do I want to get quiet and listen and see what can I do or how can I be that will perhaps ameliorate that situation? So what starts to happen is when you can stay as much as possible in your parasympathetic nervous system, things will happen, but you will respond really from a place of much greater calm and knowing. And you will be in the present moment. So much of what's going on right now are the fears of the people about, well, what about this and what about this and what about that? All you can do is respond in the present moment to whatever's occurring for you in the present moment. When that starts to happen, you will begin to see that your parasympathetic nervous system is very connected to your soul star chakra, to your guidance system, and to your earth star chakra. Yay, yes. And so that's where the knowing comes. That's where you get guidance to say, maybe it would be good to do this or that, or, or not do anything, but just sit and pray or take a walk or whatever. And so when you start to do that, and I love yoga, I love chanting, I love all the wonderful bells and bowls and things that you all do. What you're doing is laying out a frequency message and a frequency pattern that could shift people who are currently in their crazy sympathetic system, just, like, what about this? And, and they can't seem to stop, because the reality is, in this moment, for the most part, there's nothing they can do. What will you personally do about a tariff, right? I mean, you can demonstrate, you can call your congressman, all of that, but you can't stop it in this moment. So the more time you're spending sort of worrying about it, what starts to happen is that's fueling the frequency of fear and worry, etc. So what your job is today is to be as much as possible in the parasympathetic nervous system, which is designed to keep you in your sovereignty, in your calm, in your well-being. And from that, to connect with, all right, so what's mine to do or to offer? The reality is there's no going back to another time. The earth has erupted. Humanity has erupted. Governments have erupted. And it's kind of messy. It is. But the good part, the part that I want you to hold on to and really feed and fuel for yourselves, is people are feeling like, I have to do something. I have to do something. This isn't okay with me for the most part. And so now the challenge that all of you have already faced in your lives, and I think you can help others with that, is how can they challenge themselves to operate from their parasympathetic mode rather than being, I have to do something, so I'm, going to do something crazy or silly or stupid or self-destructive. No. So the world has erupted like it needed to. And regardless of who got elected, it was going to erupt one way or the other. This has been a little more drastic, but it needed to erupt. And so what's happening? This global transformation is really about coming into the law of oneness. The law of oneness, which is you all belong to the same family. It was interesting, some of you might have seen, there was a scientific article in which they allegedly proved that all human beings are descended from one woman in Africa. And they had all these DNA things to prove that. Maybe so, maybe that's Eve, I don't know. But I think what you're seeing is that there are these seeds of information, which may or may not be true. You know, it might be disproven tomorrow. You know, there's just a lot of flotsam and jetsam bumping around. But the reality is you are all of one family. What you do to yourself, what you do to each other, you do to everyone. And so if it's been a while for you, and I know it's a long one, watch the movie Gandhi. It's an extraordinary story. And yes, it's a movie, and perhaps there were things that were blurred or whatever, but please put away your doubt for a moment and watch this person who initially was just thrown off a train because he was brown. And watch what happened from there. So I know I'm not saying each of you should be Gandhi, but what I'm saying is the event has happened. The wake-up call is here. There is no one on the planet that is not affected. Even Samara was reading, there's even tariffs on an island where the only inhabitants are penguins. So everyone is affected. Every part of this world is affected. And so it's kind of like, again, you can be angry or upset about it or this or that, but begin to see this is a global wake-up call, that everything is connected. You can't segregate and say, this is my air, this is my water, this is my kingdom. You're all in it together. And so the most loving thing you can do is take care of yourself first. And I don't mean that in a selfish way. I mean that in a self-loving way. Eat what nurtures you. Drink what sustains you. Do the activities that enliven you. Walk where it's beautiful. Have friends over and laugh and pop popcorn, whatever. Because think about this. You are each frequency transmitters. Every minute, you're emanating a frequency. And so let it be one of happiness and joy and well-being and compassion and comfort and all of those good things. But you can't do that if you are in worry, if you're stuck in this, oh God, this is awful, what's going to happen next? Will they take away my Social Security, you know, whatever. And realize there is a revolution occurring. And it is sort of this wonderful, timeless struggle between what does might make right? Do the bullies always win? Do we have an obligation to another country on the other side of the ocean that I've never even seen or heard about? What about our children? You know, there's lots of different things that will be sorted out in the coming days. And as I said, it isn't that there's one right answer, because all of you came in with sort of a starry identity, for want of a better description. And that starry identity is your, what Ernest Hemingway would have called your built-in crap detector. Samara's laughing at me for saying that. So what that is you can read things, you can hear things on the TV, you can whatever. And the talking heads tell you all sorts of things that are contradictory to the other talking heads. But if you can nurture your own knowing, that's unbeatable. It's unbeatable. And it then becomes how you shine your star in the world. Your presence is your present, your gift, and your current reality. And so that above all is what is so essential right now, while the winds of change are happening, while things are being whipped up all over the world, where the people who have had lots of power and money are holding on to it for all that they can, and where the people who have been without that, but have been sort of comfortable, aren't comfortable anymore. And that has a purpose. That has a purpose. And so don't focus on the next crazy thing that you see on the news or on TV. The other day, Samara and I were talking, and I said, I'll tell them ABC. ABC. A is allowing. What are you allowing? B, what are you believing? And C, what are you choosing? Because that's going to make up essentially your diet, what you're taking in. What am I allowing? Am I allowing myself to spend hours scrolling through doomsday and then antidotes and all that? Am I believing what this one says or that one says? And again, it's very interesting depending on which news outlet you're looking at or listening to. They very carefully curate what's on it. I hope you know that. So their point of view is what is reinforced, and other points of view are not brought forward. And so don't be angry that people have these stories and say, well, they said this and this and that. Perhaps so. But again, develop your knowing, develop your sovereignty, develop your courage, and develop your joy. These are the things that will take you in a very beautiful pattern through these coming days. Because while all of these initial governmental entanglements are being figured out and power struggles are being fought on different countries, different bands of people, etc., what it's really about is understanding, are they functioning from their sympathetic nervous system? And if they are, it just means that every decision they're making is based in fear. And again, I'm not saying they're wrong, because sometimes the tiger's attacking. But when you're doing that, you are not living the fullness of who you are. Yes, you have the sympathetic, but you also have the parasympathetic. And when you start to model yourself around what is it that is healing for me, what is helping for me, what is hindering me, and what is harming me. Is it harming? Is it hindering? Is it helping? Is it healing? These are the questions that when you ask yourself this, you come to really trust in your own understanding and knowing that whatever plays out in the coming days, and it will be a bit rocky as eruptions are, you can stay serene and safe and happy and joyous. You can exercise compassion for others who are needing a little bit of a steady hand right now. And in that process, Some of you have had wonderful encounters with what you call people from other planets, right? I don't always talk about this, but this group is, you can handle it. So there's a group called the Arcturians, and they were around, they've been around forever, but when you think about Egypt, the Arcturians came into Egypt and brought medicine, healing, pyramids, lots and lots of cool stuff. The Arcturians are back, and what has to happen is a level of openness to new ideas, to new solutions, to new possibilities, to not trying to go back to what will never be true again, the way things were in the countries throughout the world. It will never be that way again. How will it be? So the Arcturians bring blueprints that you will receive if you're interested and if this is something that's part of your path to create. And you can say yes or no. You can bring others in to help you with it. But I think what you'll find is that the structures that they bring are designed to be communication and frequency systems that allow for diversity, that allow for a place at the table for everyone, that allow for the planet to thrive, all of these things. So that's what's coming. That's what's coming. And so how do we sort of encourage that if we're not interested in directly working with the Arcturians? We stay open-minded. And that's a bit of a challenge right now, but we stay open-minded. So we start to think, well, are tariffs terrible? They certainly have a big effect at this moment. But perhaps there's going to be a shift in how we all talk to each other and how consumer goods move. I don't know. And I'm not saying there will be. But what I'm saying is open your mind to not immediately condemn what looks like it shouldn't be happening. By the same token, when something happens, such as the young man who was deported, who's not a gang member, etc., and he's now in El Salvador in some prison, speak up and say, no, that's not all right. That's not all right. Bring him home. So it's this mixture of staying present, staying peaceful, but doing your part in whatever way brings you peace and joy. The last thing I'll just share for tonight, because we have so many beautiful light workers here. Sound is huge. Sound is huge. Because if you think about all these sounds coming over the internet of, the news is terrible and this one's arguing, that all of those sounds are dissonant, creating dissonance. And so all of you that are using sound for harmony, bless you. Share it, teach others, have sound baths, bring people over for yoga and do your balls, whatever is helpful. Because what we are doing, all of us, and literally there are millions of you. I don't know, on the call right now, there's 25 of us, but there's millions of you. What you're doing is creating a frequency band, like a band, not a band that plays an instrument, but a band that can settle into the Earth's environment, kind of like a weather pattern, but not exactly. And the Arcturians bring the blueprints through this frequency band, because it's a little like considering those of you that are into 3D, 4D, 5D. It's like this band would be, let's call it 4D. And so how do you get an idea from 5D to 3D? you bring it through 4D so it can have a smoother landing. It can have a sense of acceptance rather than, oh, that sounds too weird. I don't know if I want to do that. It's just blah, blah, blah. So it's you'll see, you'll see. So if you don't have bowls and you're not in a yoga class, my goodness, there's all sorts of good things on the internet that you can access that have beautiful, beautiful music and sound. And while you're while you're doing that, one of the most effective things, if you can, is to put on your headphones. Why? Because when you put your headphones on, you are literally shutting out, the noises of your house or whatever's going on. But you are summoning a certain aspect of yourself to really take in the mana, the food that is being offered through that particular music that you're listening to. If you don't have them, that's all right. I'm just trying to give you as many tools, as possible for that. So to sort of sum things up, 4/4/2025, the world has erupted and there's no going back. So don't long for the good old days. Appreciate them, look through your photo books, enjoy them. It's not going to be the same. You're living in a time where there truly will be a shift into global understanding, and it will take a while. But in the meantime, taking care of yourself with joy, with peace, with the foods, etc., is your job one. And if you're not sure, you just ask yourself ABC. What am I allowing? What am I believing? What am I choosing? And hopefully all of the answers to that are, I'm allowing what nourishes me, I'm believing what serves me, and I'm choosing my highest good. So I love you all so much. Please, please, please remember your parasympathetic nervous system. You will love spending time in that. So be well, my darlings, and namaste. Namaste. I'm trying to find the right place here. Okay. All right. Mercury's still retrograde.